The deep dive is back, and today we are looking at an actor who manages to be uh, both instantly recognizable and utterly invisible, sometimes in the same breath.
Mm-hmm.
We are cracking open the career file of Peter Sarsgaard. You know him. He's an actor who just consistently chooses the complex, the unsettling, and, well, the morally ambiguous.
Yeah. He's really one of the great cinematic chameleons of our time, isn't he?
He really is.
And we're moving far beyond just like a lift of his films today.
Right.
We're here to understand the deliberate, often counterintuitive architecture of his professional life.
Right.
Sarsgaard doesn't seem to chase pure conventional fame. He pursues this profound artistic engagement, often in roles that demand pretty intense psychological investigation.
Exactly, and our sources today, they provide a truly comprehensive map of Sarsgaard's journey. It stretches all the way from a childhood defined by constant movement to his recent critically validating Volpe Cup win at Venice. So, our mission is to trace the path of this highly adaptable character actor. We want to uncover the surprising origins, those pivotal performances, and I think most importantly, the distinct personal philosophy that dictates why he chooses the villains, the sociopaths, and, the deeply compromised men he plays so often.
It's true. His career path offers a kind of masterclass for any performer, or really any creative professional, who prioritizes integrity over maybe pure commerce.
Mm-hmm.
He synthesizes these raw, independent dramas, high-stakes blockbusters, and award-winning television with this unique fluidity. What really defines his success is critical recognition, not just box office totals.
Yeah, he's a darling of major film societies.
Definitely. We want you, the listener, to see the intentionality behind those roles you always found so intensely cast.
Okay, let's unpack this fascinating foundation then. Because when you watch his intense, sometimes brooding screen presence, like, say, in Shattered Glass or The Killing,
Yeah.
you might assume Sarsgaard had this stable, maybe theater-focused, artistic upbringing. But the reality is far more dynamic.
Yeah.
And nomadic.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. He was born John Peter Sarsgaard on March 7, 1971, at Scott Air Force Base in St. Clair County, Illinois. So his roots are actually tied pretty squarely to the military and corporate America.
Yeah, so.
Well, his father was an Air Force engineer who later transitioned to working for these massive industrial giants, specifically Monsanto and then IBM.
And that transition, that meant movement.
Yeah.
You have to think about the life of an Air Force kid who then becomes like an IBM kid. Following his father's career path, the family moved more than 12 times during his childhood.
12 times?
That is a crucial piece of biographical info, I think, because what kind of personality does that foster?
Well, it creates this internal library of human behavior, doesn't it? When you're constantly the new kid, they're kind of forced to become this acute observer.
Right.
A quick study in social codes, and you have to be highly adaptable to new environments. You learn how to wear different masks just to fit in, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That level of adaptability and observational skill, that's the very foundation of character acting, you could argue.
Yeah.
It absolutely informs his ability to seamlessly adopt accents, physicality, different internal lives.
It's like constant rehearsal for transformation, even before he knew he was going to be an actor.
Exactly.
And speaking of transformations, let's touch on the family name, Sarsgaard. It's Danish, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Originating from his paternal great-great-grandparents. But the origin story that really provides the first unexpected pivot in his life, it concerns his original ambition.
Ah, the great twist.
The great twist. His original goal at age 7 was definitely not the dramatic stage. He wanted to be a soccer player.
Okay.
And here's where it gets, kind of counterintuitive and wonderfully unique. To improve his coordination for soccer, he took up ballet.
Ballet for soccer. I love that. It's a great piece of trivia, but it's also maybe the first sign of his willingness to embrace a discipline that's outside the expected norm to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
He's always seemed willing to commit to the unexpected path.
It's a phenomenal, almost poetic origin for a future character actor who has to embody, grace and brutality almost simultaneously sometimes. However, the true directional shift, that happened after he suffered multiple concussions playing soccer.
Ouch!
Yeah, that effectively ended his athletic career. So he dropped the sport entirely and shifted his focus to writing and theater instead. He attended Fairfield College Preparatory School, which is a private Jesuit boys' school in Connecticut. And that's where this new interest in film started to develop significantly.
And his higher education journey was also pretty nonlinear, wasn't it?
Not at all linear. He started at Bard College in New York, attended for 2 years, 89 to 91, but consistent with that moving childhood.
He transferred.
He transferred, exactly. Ended up at Washington University in St. Louis, WashU in 91,
Right.
and graduated in 93 with a bachelor's degree in history.
History, interesting, not drama.
Not drama. And this is where we find a really stark contrast to his later intensity. While he was at WashU, he co-founded an improvisational comedy troupe
Get out.
called Mama's Pot Roast.
Mama's pot roast.
Seriously. So when you think of the intense, brooding, often terrifying men he plays later on,
Right.
it seems almost impossible to reconcile that with the spontaneous, light, maybe chaotic energy of an improv comedy group.
But that contrast is essential, though, isn't it? It's not just a funny anecdote. We have to ask, what does improv training actually give a dramatic actor?
Well, it gives them spontaneity, obviously. But maybe more importantly, it teaches this fearless commitment to a premise, no matter how ridiculous or dark it might be. It requires instant adaptation and the ability to listen and react authentically, often under pressure. An actor who can embrace failure and risk-taking in comedy, well, that's someone who can risk taking on morally repulsive characters without judgment,
Ah.
which is a foundational skill for someone who frequently plays sociopaths, right? The ability to make John Lauder feel like a real person, not just some cardboard villain, that requires that kind of spontaneous realism, may be born from improv.
That makes perfect sense. It's the engine of his adaptability. So, after graduating, he moves to New York, starts performing in plays. An offshoot of New York's Actor Studio, I think.
Yeah, putting him in a really rigorous, dramatic environment. His first documented role was as the servant Laurent in Molière's classic comedy Tartuffe.
Wow, Molière.
So he starts with classics, then eventually film drama. But perhaps the most crucial element from his early life is this philosophical connection he openly maintains between his spiritual upbringing and his professional choices.
Right. He was raised Catholic, served as an altar boy,
He did.
and he's spoken explicitly about how that framework informs his craft.
He has, and the quotes are really fascinating. Sarsgaard stated that he actually likes the death cult aspect of Catholicism,
Whoa.
which is a rather provocative phrase, right? Indicating an appreciation for the intensity of faith. But maybe more seriously, he cited the spiritual instruction to love your enemy as foundational to his acting methodology.
That's a huge insight. The love your enemy mandate applied to professional exploration. How did he connect that specifically to playing antagonists?
Well, he said that to abandon curiosity in all personalities, good or bad, is to give up hope in humanity. This philosophy gives him permission, maybe even an obligation, to explore the darkest characters he can find without imposing moral judgment on them during the performance.
Which explains why his villains are never simple.
Exactly. They always possess that unsettling element of human charisma or some kind of internal logic, which is far more convincing and frankly more disturbing than simple monstrousness.
So that philosophical anchor, it clearly guided his early career choices. Because when he began his screen work in 1995, he immediately entered some heavy dramatic territory.
Right away. His film debut, Dead Man Walking in 95, directed by Tim Robbins, starring Susan Sarandon and Sean Penn. I mean, that placed him immediately into an incredibly serious, star-studded environment.
Yeah.
He played Walter Delacroix, a teenager murdered by Penn's convicted character. So, right out of the gate, his focus is on death, morality, and this complex, emotionally raw material.
And simultaneously, he was making waves on the stage, too. His theatrical debut was in the off-Broadway production of Laura Dennis, also in 1995. And this is important because it's where critics first really recognized his unique gravity. Ben Brantley of the New York Times hailed him as an actor to watch with a performance of breathtaking emotional conviction.
So he was clearly bringing maybe that improvisational, spontaneity, emotional depth to these serious dramatic roles right away.
Yeah.
He was quickly establishing his versatility across media, which would become his hallmark, really. He took early guest roles in New York City productions like Law and Order in 95.
Of course, Law and Order.
And New York Undercover in 97. Plus that gritty HBO special Subway Stories.
Yeah.
He wasn't just waiting around for some massive break. He was building a solid foundation across all platforms.
His first substantial role in a, widely seen mainstream film came in 1998 with The Man in the Iron Mask.
Right, the Dumas adaptation.
Yeah, he played Raoul, the ill-fated son of Athos, who was played by the great John Malkovich.
That was a major platform shift, a big budget period piece. And the film was a substantial commercial success, actually. Earned like $182 million worldwide.
Wow.
Showing he could operate in that system. However, This period piece success was pretty quickly overshadowed by the role that would truly define his early reputation and kind of steer his career away from traditional leading man status, probably forever.
And here's where that philosophical depth, that love your enemy idea, really pays dividends. Boys Don't Cry in 1999. His role as John Lauder, the notorious killer in the film based on the brutal real-life murder of Brandon Teena that secured him widespread critical recognition and put him permanently on the map.
This performance was just a masterclass in controlled, terrifying menace. Critics were quick to point out that Sarsgaard didn't play a caricature.
No.
They noted that he made the killer's horrifying trajectory believable by grounding it in what they called the most mundane clodhopper behavior.
Right. The key was that he prevented the character from being just a simple, drooling monster designed solely to shock the audience. He made him recognizable. And that is fundamentally more disturbing, I think.
It goes straight back to that principle we talked about. Sarsgaard himself discussed this. He said he wanted the audience to understand why people would initially hang out with Lauder.
Interesting.
He intentionally aimed for charisma over likability. He also noted feeling kind of empowered by inhabiting such a sociopathic character, suggesting that that deep dive into psychology provides a professional charge like a real actor's high.
Okay. So following that breakthrough, he did attempt to test the waters as a leading man, didn't he?
He did. His first leading role was in 2001 in The Center of the World, playing Richard Longman, a lonely young entrepreneur who gets involved with a stripper he hires to accompany him to Vegas.
And critics.
They continued to adore his nuanced approach. A.O. Scott of the New York Times praised him specifically for capturing the blunted affect and aimless neediness of young people struggling with emotional possibility despite, material wealth. Scott saw the character as a genuinely nice guy, too innocent to grasp the sleaziness of his bargain. So, again, the role is defined by its internal moral conflict, not just its external actions.
But then we get a sharp lesson in the realities of the film industry versus his sort of independent artistic path. In 2002, he starred in K-19. The Widowmaker.
Oh, yeah.
Playing young Russian Navy Lieutenant Vadim Radchenko opposite Harrison Ford.
Well,
this was a massive studio film, huge budget, like $100 million reported.
Yeah, a really big swing. And it was a high-profile box office failure, grossed only about $65 million worldwide.
Oof.
This moment is pretty crucial, I think. It clearly signaled to Sarsgaard, and probably the industry, that his professional life wasn't going to be defined by whether a big-budget vehicle succeeded or failed commercially.
Right.
It reinforced the notion that his value really lay in the strength and complexity of the characters he inhabited, not necessarily in blockbuster numbers.
And he immediately seemed to leverage that lesson by showcasing just radical versatility. That same year, 2002, despite the K-19 thing, he played a supporting role in the crime thriller Empire, and then transformed into a meth addict named Jimmy the Finn in The Salton Sea.
That transformation into Jimmy the Finn, wow. With his erratic energy and that raw desperation, it really showcased his ability to commit fully to the grotesque while still somehow maintaining a flicker of humanity.
Yeah.
He also briefly returned to his stage roots around then, replacing Edward Norton in a New York production of Lanford Wilson's Burn This.
Oh, interesting.
So by the end of this, let's call it the ascent phase, he had confirmed his ability to jump between pretty much any medium and any character extreme. A true utility player.
Okay, so the year 2003 marks the definitive critical turning point, really solidifying his reputation as one of the great character actors of his generation with Shattered Glass.
Absolutely. This is a cornerstone performance. He starred as journalist Charles Lane, the editor at the New Republic, who took on the, incredibly painful task of exposing Stephen Glass's widespread journalistic fraud.
The significance here is immense, right? It earned him his first major awards attention, Golden Globe nomination, Independent Spirit Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. But let's look closer at why this role resonated so deeply.
Well, Sarsgaard wasn't playing some heroic crusader figure. He was playing the quiet devastation of professional betrayal. The character, Lane, wasn't angry in a conventional way. He was experiencing this slow, agonizing realization that his entire institution, his whole value system, had been violated past the breaking point.
Yeah.
The Chicago Tribune specifically praised him for the subtlety and grace he brought to that internal crisis. It just demonstrated his unique ability to convey moral integrity collapsing rather than just, delivering exposition.
That high watermark led to a fantastic streak of versatility. Look at 2004 alone. He played Mark, the sarcastic, relatable best friend in the beloved comedy drama Garden State.
Yeah, which everyone saw.
And then in the same year, he transforms again, portraying Clyde Martin in the biographical film Kinsey about the pioneering sexologist Alfred Kinsey.
Kinsey was a significant critical hit, and Paul Clinton and CNN did not mince words. He said Sarsgaard's portrayal stands out and confirms that he's without doubt one of the best character actors of his generation.
Wow.
He was finally receiving that kind of industry confirmation of what critics had been saying for years.
And Kinsey is also notable for being one of his first roles featuring full frontal nudity, and he provided a really incredible, professional, and actually slightly humorous perspective on the experience, particularly the kissing scene with Liam Neeson.
Yeah, it revealed his immense pragmatism, didn't it? He famously said the kissing scene was less hard than, say, running around with all my gear on in Jarhead. But he followed that up with an even deeper insight, I think, into the psychological barriers male actors often face regarding queer roles. He suggested that the only real fear among male actors is the anxiety of being turned on.
Right.
Implying that if you're confident and know what you like, the acting is simply technical and not a personal challenge, which reveals a kind of professional detachment that's probably necessary for the extreme roles he takes. He separates the craft from the ego.
That makes sense. Moving into 2005, we see him tackle the complex drama The Dying Gaul. He played Robert Sandridge, a struggling screenwriter. The film explores the temptation to compromise one's artistic vision.
And the theme here really mirrors his own career choices, doesn't it? He articulated the film's theme beautifully by discussing the temptation to sell their soul. He noted that because his character was elitist, the moral conflict seemed even bigger. Anyone can sell their soul, even people with integrity. There's always that temptation to guard against.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes about his own commitment to challenging, often non-commercial work.
But this commitment to complex, internal moral struggle didn't prevent him from achieving commercial success, too. 2005 saw him in the thrillers The Skeleton Key and, crucially, Flight Plan.
Flight Plan.
Where he played Air Marshal Gene Carson.
Yeah, Flight Plan was a massive financial winner. His highest-grossing film up to 2008, I believe, earned something like $223 million worldwide.
Wow.
Proving he could be both a critical darling and a commercially viable player, even if it was in a supporting role.
And that same year, he was opposite his future brother-in-law, Jake Gyllenhaal, in the acclaimed Gulf War memoir film Jarhead.
Right.
Further solidifying his place in these major prestige ensemble pictures.
Recognition even reached a peak of cultural awareness in 2006 when he hosted Saturday Night Live.
That's always a sign, isn't it?
Yeah, it often is, yeah. A silent actor has achieved a certain level of pervasive cultural impact, and in his monologue, he made fun of his own reputation for playing these macabre characters.
He was dead.
Yeah, and they ran this famous skit referencing the global SARS health scare at the time, promoting a Peter Sarsgaard product.
Oh my God, I remember that. Sarsgaard.
Yeah. It was a delightful moment of high-level self-awareness.
His versatility just continued to astound. In 2007, he played the androgynous dog trainer Newt in the dark comedy Year of the Dog.
Quirky role.
Very. Then, in 2009, he impressed critics again by starring as the older, morally questionable David Goldman in the critically acclaimed film An Education.
Great film.
And that role required him to speak in a flawless British accent.
Which is a true test of adaptability, right?
Yeah.
And his success there connects directly back to that nomadic childhood we talked about. He had to constantly learn how to observe and assimilate local dialects and customs.
Good point.
His ability to blend into ensemble casts, often while serving as the central, complicated catalyst for the plot, is just remarkable. He also continued to dip into genre work, playing a federal agent in Night and Day in 2010.
Oh, wait.
And the villain, Dr. Hector Hammond, in the superhero film Green Lantern in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
He really mastered the art of the scene-stealing supporting role.
And this success translated brilliantly and I think deeply to television, which allows for even longer psychological exploration. He took on the role of Ray Seward in the AMC Netflix crime series The Killing in 2013.
Great series.
A man on death row, potentially wrongfully convicted. And this is where he made the stunning claim that the role contains some of the best acting I've ever done in my life.
What allowed for that peak performance, do you think?
Well, the role of Ray Seward was almost pure internal drama, wasn't it? He was physically contained, locked up,
Right.
which forced him to convey the complexity of fear, regret, manipulation, and vulnerability almost entirely through dialogue and microexpressions. It was a rigorous, sustained exercise in that love your enemy philosophy.
Finding the humanity.
Exactly. Finding the humanity and terror in a character facing his own mortality and the legal system's judgment.
And his subsequent work in miniseries just cemented his status as a critical heavyweight in that format, too. He earned a Critics' Choice nomination for Martin Schmidt in Hulu's The Looming Tower in 2018.
Oh, this serious?
And then a prestigious Primetime Emmy Award nomination for playing Rick Mountcastle in the 2021 miniseries Dopesick.
Which was huge.
Huge! These roles required immense research and technical precision to portray real-life figures involved in these high-stakes political and historical events.
And he was balancing this with historical and franchise roles, too, portraying Robert F. Kennedy in Jackie 2016, the antagonist Bartholomew Bogue in the Magnificent Seven remake 2016, and District Attorney Gil Colson in the Batman 2022. He continues to be the actor you hire when you need immediate specific gravity.
He really does.
But the greatest, most recent formal recognition of his career arrived just last year in 2023.
Ah, yes, that was for the film Memory, where he played Saul, a man riddled with dementia opposite Jessica Chastain.
Such a challenging role.
Incredible nuance required.
Yeah.
And his acceptance of the role was very deliberate. He explicitly stated that he did not want to depict the most extreme stage that, paralyzes viewers with fear.
Why was that choice to avoid the extreme so critically brilliant, do you think?
Because it elevated the performance from just mere mimicry of disease to an exploration of internal emotional dignity.
Ah.
By focusing on the man struggling with the early stages of cognitive loss, he presented a character fighting to hold on to identity and connection. This subtlety and empathetic restraint are precisely what critics praised, leading to his winning the Volpe Cup for Best Actor at the prestigious Venice International Film Festival.
It's the ultimate validation, really, of his non-extreme, nuanced approach to complex vulnerability. We've established that fluidity is his professional lifeblood moving between massive financial successes and these small, intense indie films. This commitment to the craft is mirrored, really, by his deep and sustained dedication to the stage, particularly the work of one very specific playwright.
Yes, Anton Chekhov. Sarsgaard has frequently returned to Chekhov's works, viewing theater not just as an artistic outlet, but as an essential laboratory for honing his craft.
It makes sense.
His Broadway debut in 2008 was playing Boris Alexeyevich Trigorin in the revival of Chekhov's The Seagull.
Okay. Chekhov's characters are so often defined by their internal melancholy, existential despair, yearning themes that resonate deeply with many of Sarsgaard's screen characters who are often lonely or searching or compromised.
Absolutely.
And he made a specific, challenging choice for his Broadway debut, didn't he? With the accent.
He did. He deliberately sought to use an accent in The Seagull that was, in his words, less liked by an American audience.
Wow.
Again, this just reinforces his commitment to authenticity and challenge over, maybe, audience comfort.
Yeah.
He's an actor who values the rigor of the performance, even if it slightly alienates the viewer sometimes. He's pushing against the conventions of mainstream accessibility.
He continued that deep stage work off-Broadway, too, often partnering with his now wife, Maggie Gyllenhaal. He played Mikhail Lvovich Ostrov in Uncle Vanya in 2009 and appeared in Three Sisters in 2011. This sustained work on the classic Russian stage culminated in him taking on one of the truly great monumental roles in theater.
The big one.
Playing Hamlet in a 2015 classic stage company production.
That is a staggering commitment. Playing Hamlet requires such emotional endurance and intellectual clarity. It really is the ultimate test for any dramatic actor. That dedication to the stage, even while maintaining a high-profile film career, is just proof that the craft always comes before the career trajectory for him, it seems.
Yeah. Flipping now to his personal context, he's had some high-profile romantic relationships before settling down. Our sources mention.
Yeah, his notable relationships included burlesque dancer Dita Von Teese and model Shalom Harlow. And the sources offer a fascinating, maybe slightly dramatic anecdote about the end of the Von Teese relationship.
Oh, what's that?
Well, Dita Von Teese publicly stated that she started dating Marilyn Manson shortly after finding out Sarsgaard had cheated on her with an unidentified supermodel.
Ouch. Gossip column fodder.
Right. That was, of course, before he met his current wife. But it adds a layer of maybe dramatic irony to the personal life of a man who makes his living playing morally complicated characters.
Fair point. His eventual marriage tied him directly into one of Hollywood's most critically respected families, though.
Absolutely. He began dating actress Maggie Gyllenhaal, the sister of his close friend and Jarhead co-star Jake Gyllenhaal, back in 2002.
So they've been together a while.
Yeah. They became engaged in 2006 and married in a small private ceremony in Brindisi, Italy in 2009. They have 2 daughters born in 2006 and 2012.
And it's interesting how tight that professional and personal circle is. Husband to Maggie Gyllenhaal, brother-in-law to Jake Gyllenhaal.
And the 2 brothers-in-law professionally shared the screen in Jarhead. Yeah, it's quite interconnected.
In terms of lifestyle, he adheres to a vegan diet, I read?
He does, but he's pragmatic enough to confirm that he does cook meat for his children.
Okay.
Which kind of speaks to a dedication to his personal beliefs, but balanced with the necessities of family life.
Right. And he has actively used his platform for political involvement, hasn't he? Never really shying away from controversial public stances.
Not at all. He appeared in a 2013 video showing support for Chelsea Manning. And more recently, in 2025, he became a signatory of the Filmworkers for Palestine boycott pledge.
This activism is important to note, I think, because it places his career choices, the exploration of justice, morality, the systems that oppress or judge, within a tangible, real-world framework.
Absolutely. For a deep dive audience like ours, understanding his political commitments really contextualizes his choice of scripts like Rendition or Dopesick or The Killing. It shows he's not just an actor for hire. He's an actor who seems to ground his work in a strong, personal, maybe even oppositional belief system.
Yeah.
And that kind of public stance, especially in high-profile pledges, it carries potential professional impact. Demonstrating a willingness to prioritize political conscience over pure career longevity, perhaps.
Hashtag outro.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? We have traced John Peter Sarsgaard's career arc from this curious, perpetually moving Air Force kid who took ballet for coordination and performed improv comedy to a critically decorated actor. His guiding star really seems to be finding the nuanced humanity, no matter how profoundly flawed in his characters. Yeah, his career is a conscious counter-narrative to the typical Hollywood path. His greatest recognition has consistently come from critics and film societies, the National Society of Film Critics, Boston Society of Film Critics, and of course, most recently, the Volpe Cup. He is the quintessential chameleon whose rigor, historical perspective, and deep philosophical base allow him to transform completely.
That adaptable, observational nature perfectly prepared him to play the outsiders, the morally fractured, and the catalysts for chaos. He injects such depth into villainy that it compels us, the audience, to connect with the uncomfortable why.
And we connected this approach directly to his early Catholic upbringing and the philosophical instruction he adopted. The need to love your enemy, and the belief that one must explore all personalities, good or bad, to maintain hope in humanity.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to chew on. Sarsgaard's performances are defined by this professional empathy, the ability to fully inhabit a character's logic without endorsing their morality. So think about his most repulsive roles.
Specifically, maybe consider the sociopathic drive required for John Lauder in Boys Don't Cry, and the ravaged, desperate performance of the meth addict Jimmy the Finn in The Salton Sea.
Did the sheer inhumanity and desperation of these roles truly test the limits of his professional empathy? And if so, how does that lifelong challenge, that constant balancing act between darkness and understanding, how does that pave the way for the profound subtlety and raw vulnerability he achieved in his award-winning portrayal of Saul in Memory?
How does the ability to master the worst of humanity allow an actor to finally master its fragility? Fascinating question, I think, about the intersection of craft and conscience. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you for joining us.
We'll catch you next time for another session of Getting Well Informed Fast.